Good morning, class. You are welcome to today's class. Today we continue from where we stopped on Tuesday lecture. And today we'll be looking at error and exception handling in PHP. But first, let me just recall us of the last time lecture. The last time we discussed about error and exception handling. And we try to explain error in programming. That when we try to write code, mistakes are almost inevitable, especially when you are writing for the first time. When you are writing code for the first time. So mistakes are almost inevitable. So, and these mistakes are called errors. They are called errors. So, and we discuss about three main types of error. No, that error has been grouped into three main types. And we have, first we have syntax error that we discuss. We discuss about syntax error that caused by wrong code or typos. And when such a syntax error occurs, which caused by wrong code or typo, program won't run. So it will not enable our program to run. So mistake in how the code is written, that is the grammar of the language. So it can cause syntax error. So, and we also discuss about semantic error, which is part of the type of error that occur. So, and we say semantic error code runs, but the meaning or logic is incorrect, leading to wrong results. So, in semantic error, code will run, but the meaning or logic is incorrect. So, it's leading to wrong results. So, and as well, semantic error are tough to find. They are thought to find, but in syntax error you can easily you as a programmer in the house you can come across it anytime in for syntax error. But semantic error, they are tough to find, and you sometimes need some sort of debugger to find them. So that is for semantic error. I told us last time that code will run, but the meaning or logic is incorrect, leading to wrong results. So that is for semantic error. And the third type of error we discussed last time is logical errors. Logical errors, they are the faulty developer thinking. So they are often related to incorrect use of operators or assumptions. So that is for logical error. So and we discuss that error are usually detected during the software testing phase. That is where error usually detected. They are detected during the software testing phase. And we have exception. We discuss about exception too, which is the runtime issues. So, and exceptions, they are errors that occur while a program is running, that is at run times. So the exceptions, they are the error that occur while a program is running, which at the run time. So, and we discuss error handling or exception handling. So error handling or exception handling is the process of detecting and processing this exception. So is the process of detecting the error handling or exception handling is the process of detecting and processing this exception we are discussing, we are talking about presently. So, and the goal of this error handling or exception handling, the goal is graceful handling, is to for us to gratefully handling it. So that is detecting error without crashing the code. So the goal of this handling error or exception handling is for us to detect the error without crashing the code. So, and caching an exception, we discussed about caching an exception means that as you examine it and perform a response. So you examine it and perform a response. That is the meaning of caching an exception. So, and we have example alongside example with it. so that we discussed last lecture. So we discussed about Python error handling as well, using try except block. So we use try except block when Python want to handle error. So we put the code in try, and if the code is put in try, and so like code that might cause error, we place it in a try block. So the code that you think that this code by the time I run it might cause an error, so you first of all place it in a try block first. And if an exception now occur in the try block, so if an exception occur in that try block that you place your code, so Python jump to and execute the except block. So that is how try except block runs. That is how it runs. So you place your code in a try block. If you know that it might cause an error, and if an exception occur in that try block, Python jump to and execute the except block. And if no exception occur, the except block is skipped. So if now when Python jump and execute the except block, and if no exception occur, then the except block is skipped. So that is how try and except block runs for our code, for our Python code. So to know if our code can have an error or not. So now we have raise and final for Python error handling. We have raise and final. So after try and except, we discuss about raise and final. So for raise, the raise statement allow a programmer to explicitly force a specific exception to occur. So that is what raise statement do. And final as well, final clause always executes. So the final clause always execute regardless of whether an exception occur or not. So that is for final. Final clause will always execute the code, but regardless of whether an exception occur or not. And finally, so is due for cleaning up tasks. So is finally due for cleaning up tasks, and such tasks can be closing file, ensuring gracefully application shutdown. So that is what the clean up task did. Is closing file, is such a closing file, ensuring graceful application shutdown. So that is what we discussed last time, just to recall what we have done. And we also discussed about common Python exceptions. So that we have like maybe 20 and more than that for common Python exception. And the exception, we have value error, zero division error, type error, import error, like that we discussed last time. So today we will be looking at error and exception handling in PHP. So PHP as well has built-in support for error handling, as well as a built-in severity system that allow us to see only errors that are serious enough to concern us. So that is what PHP has. It has built-in error handling with a severity system. So PHP is smart enough to detect problems in our code while it is running. So that is PHP. It's very smart enough to detect problems in your code while it's running. So and you classify this problem by severity level. So you can decide which one to care about. So it classifies this problem while it's running. It's classified by severity level, so that we can decide which one to care about. So it can decide which one to care about. So we have in PHP as well, we have 3 severity level of error, as we have in Python that we have 4 or 3 level of error. So which we have the syntax error, semantic and logical error. But in PHP 2 we have 3 severity level of error. We have ill notice, e-warning, and e-notice, e-warning and e-error. So whereby we'll be looking at it one by one. Like e-notice error, they are minor, non-fatal error designed to help you identify possible bug in your code. So in general, e-notice error is something that work but may not do what you intended. So e-notice error, that is their minor error in PHP. So and the meaning is that sometimes might be wrong, something might be wrong in e-notice error, something might be wrong in your code in e-notice error. So but PHP can still run your code. So something might be wrong in your code but PHP can still run that code. So that is the meaning of e-notice. It's a minor error in PHP. So it's a minor error in PHP. So e-notice, they are minor error and they are non-fatal error suggesting potential fraud. So that is what we mean. So they are non-fatal error suggesting potential fraud. So that is it for e-notice. So we have example here. The example might be using a variable in a non-assignment expression. So you use a variable in a non-assignment expression before it has been assigned to, and in this case, so we'll be looking at example that might be using a variable in a non-assignment expression before it has been assigned to, as in this case, like in this example now, that starts with PHP and having $sign variable plus plus, and that plus, which is a non-assignment expression. So we are using a variable in a non-assignment expression before it has been assigned to. That is the example for e-notice error. E-notice error. So for this example now, I've said is using, like you are using $sign variable plus plus before it assign a value. So that is what it means here in this example code under e-notice error. So this $sign, you are using $sign before it being assigned a value. So and which we have e-notice error. So it will occur, e-notice error will occur in such kind of code here. So that is for e-notice. So the next severity level of error in PHP is e-warning error. So this one too is a non-fatal runtime error. They are non-fatal runtime error for e-warning errors. So almost similar to e-notice, because e-warning error too, they are non-fatal runtime error, whereas e-notice too is non-fatal error. So they do not halt or change the control flow of the script, but they indicate that something bad happened. So that is for e-warning. So they indicate that something bad happened in your code, but don't halt its execution. They don't halt, they don't they don't just they stop the script. They don't stop the script, but it's just that they indicate that something bad happened. But PHP can still continue running the code, but it's just that they will indicate something bad happened and they will not stop the script. So they will not halt, they will not halt the chain flow of the script, but they will indicate that something bad happened. But in e-notice, something might be wrong with your code, but PHP can still run your code. So that is for e-notice. And for e-warning, they will indicate that something bad happened, but they do not halt or change the control flow of the script. So, and many internal error generate e-warning error. An example is getting an error on a call to fopen function to MySQL connect function. So that is the example. When you are getting an error on a call, so you are getting an error on a call, so and for e-warning, you are getting an error on a call, and like maybe like this f open now, to call to f open, and non-existing file, so and file doesn't exist for that kind of, getting an error on a call to f open to function to MySQL connect. So such a kind of file doesn't exist. So for e1. So and another type of built-in error, another type of in PHP categories, type of errors in PHP. We have discussed e-notice, we have discussed e-warning. So the last one is e-error. E-error. This e-error are unrecoverable error that halt the execution of the running script. So they are unrecoverable error. That is, they are fatal errors. They are fatal error. That is, meaning that a serious problem occur and PHP cannot continue. So and the script stop immediately. So this type of error is a fatal error, like not like the previous error that is a non-fatal error, non-fatal runtime error. But in this e-error, we call it fatal error. Because it will surely stop the script immediately. It will stop the execution of the running script because the error is fatal. We call it fatal error. So a serious problem occur in your coding, and PHP cannot just continue running the code. So it stop the script immediately. So that is how e-error happens. So and we have example for it. Example include attempting to instantiate a non-existing class and fail a type int in a function. So another example is calling a class that doesn't exist. Maybe the class does not exist in the file, in the memory location. The class does not exist and you are calling the class. So that is a kind of e-error. E-error we can occur in such a case like that, in such an example like that. So and another example is violating a function type requirement. So when you are violating a function type requirement, e-error can occur. So that is the example for e-error. So we'll be going to mechanisms for handling error. So PHP 2 provides several mechanisms for handling error, such as the way Python provide mechanisms for handling error or handling exception, which we have in Python. We discuss about try except, finally in Python, because Python uses try except finally, but PHP uses try throw catch. So let's see the difference between that, the comparative between that. So in Python, we use, which we have discussed about that, we use try except finally to handle error or exception in Python. So whereas PHP use try to catch, we have been looking at that. Try now is a function using an exception should be in a try block. So a function using an exception should be in a try block. If the exception does not trigger, the code will continue as normal. However, if the exception triggers, an exception is thrown. So the try block encloses code where exception might occur. So that is the work of try block. It encloses the code where an exception might occur. So but so that is for try block. So for try block, it wrap the code that might cause an error. So the code that it is likely that this code might cause an error, so the try block will wrap the code that might cause an error. And if everything is fine, the code continue normally in try block. So if the code as it has been tested in try block, that wipe the code that might cause an error in try block, and if everything is fine, the code continue normally. And if error happen, the php jump to the throw block. So an exception is thrown, so it will jump to the throw block. So that is how try block happen. That's how it occur. So and the next one is the next mechanism for handling error is throw. So and throw is how throw. This is how you trigger an exception. Each throw must have at least one cache. So each throw must have at least one cache. So in throw is manually cause an error in throw. Throw manually cause an error, that is throw an exception. So they are useful if you want to trigger custom error condition. So that is how throw is used. They are useful if you want to trigger custom error condition. So throw statement is used to trigger or explicitly raise an exception. So that is for throw statement. And cache, the next mechanism for handling error is cache. A cache block retrieves an exception and creates an object containing the exception information. So the cache, it caches the throw exception and it lets you decide what to do next. So that is for cache block. The cache block will let you decide what to do next. After caching the throw exception, it will help you to decide what to do next by displaying a message. It may display a message or log it or retrieve an action. So that is the work for cache block. So cache block will retrieve and handle the throw exception. For cache block, it will retrieve the code and handle the throw exception. So creating an object with exception information. So that is for cache block. So the try cache construct is a most grateful way to handle system error. So in PHP, the try cache construct is a more grateful way to handle system error in try cache construct in PHP. So let's see the example of how we use the try cache construct in PHP. For example, let's see this example. For example, if you want to ensure that your web application has a valid connection to a database before continuing, you could write code like this. So let's code. So the code for database connection handling. So to be ensured that your web connectionability is handling. So like this code now, we have try using try block first. So we have the $dp handle, so equal to npdo inside the bracket mysql column host equal to the local host semicolon db name equal to library $user name. So we have the $pwd enclosed in the parentheses. So we have the db underscore work inside the bracket $dp handle. So for this one, we are calling function on gaining a connection. So that is do database operation. So we are doing database operation. So that is handling database connection. That is this for this program code. So it's handling database connection. So and in this one is calling function on gaining a connection to gain a database connection operation. So is calling function on gaining a connection. So and the $ db handle equal to none, that is release handling when done. So when you are done, when you call the function of gaining a connection, so for this db handling equal to the node, that means you release the handle when you are done. So you close, that is close the connection, because you are done with it, you close the connection. So and cache, and cache block comes in. Cache inside the parenthesis pdo exception $error. So it open open the parenthesis, the bracket. So echo error $error with the arrow get message portion. So and die portion, die portion. So that is gratefully stop the script, because the cache block always, as told us that it will retrieve and handle the throw exception, creating an object with exception block. And I told us that a cache block, it will display a message because there is an error, because after caching the two exception, it let us decide what to do next, and that is displaying a message. What we do next by displaying a message, log it and retrieve and retry an action. So that is what it will decide. It will decide by displaying a message, log it or retry an action. So and this die it gracefully stop the script. That's the script you have start running, it will stop it. So and to explain this up here, the code above, they say here the connection is attempted with the try portion of the construct, and if there are any error with it, the flow of the code automatically fall into the cache portion. So like the way we can see from the code example above here, the connection is attempted with the try portion. We start with the try portion of the construct, and if we discover that there are error with it inside that try portion of the console, the flow of the code automatically fall into the cache portion. You can see in this example code above. And where the pdo exception class is instantiated into the $error variable, then we can see here from the error from the cache block here, so that where the pdo exception class is instantiated into the $error variable, it can then be displayed on the screen. You can now display the message, the message on the screen, and the code can gracefully fail rather than making an outward. So you can even redirect to another connection, attend to an alternate database, or respond to the error any other way you wish within the cache portion. So you study the code example with the explanation as well. So that is for PHP error and handling error.